Today is the day of the ball held in the royal palace. With the help of the fairy godmother, Cinderella was able to attend the party. But the happy time was very short. At midnight, when the magic wore off, Cinderella hurriedly left the palace and accidentally dropped the glass slipper. The prince could not forget the mysterious and beautiful lady who left only one shoe, so the prince searched every corner to find the girl who made his heart flutter. And finally, he found the owner of the shoe. Then Cinderella married the prince and lived happily ever after for a very, very long time. But the fairy godmother, those days, Cinderella was not happy in the large and most distant room. She fell asleep every night, tired from crying alone. At some point, even the prince stopped looking for her, although he was the one who brought her into the palace and locked her up because Cinderella was no longer mysterious, not worth loving anymore. Today, Cinderella was kicked out of the palace like a prison. They said it was because she could not bear children for the prince, their happy ending lasting less than 15. Fairy godmother, what should we do now if I know the happiness she had was the last time in her life? I ruined that wedding even though I would be crushed to death. But now I think it's too late. I'm also too old. I can't walk or run like before. I no longer have the strength to lift myself. In the cold, dark corner of the palace, a small creature named Elodie is looking up at the shadow of a person gradually appearing. The shy girl softly said, "Fairy godmother, I have one last wish, just once, even if only once. I hope she can smile again, even though at that time she had nothing." When she smiled, I felt like she had the whole world. Elodie weakly fell down, no longer able to speak. She heard a cold voice, "So, that is your last wish. Even now, you only wish for her happiness." The fairy godmother recalled Elodie's wish from that day. "I also have a wish that she can be forever happy." She spoke thoughtfully, as determined as always. If only once she said she wanted to live, she quietly whispered, "If that's the case, I will do everything." Her curse can only be broken by that girl because she is the one she loves with all her heart. If she smiles, then I will smile too. The fairy godmother's eyes were sad beneath the hood, her face hidden in the shadows silently and gloomily. She created a magical flame in her hand, in the next life, hoping she will always be in the light, so she will never have to meet someone like me again. The scenery blurred, giving way to distant memories where the blue sky and gentle sunlight stretched over the ancient building. The peaceful scene seemed to shelter old memories. Elodie spoke in shock. This song is a familiar melody, long forgotten, the sweet and gentle song she often hummed. It was when sharing food with all of us. It seemed like I thought anyone who knew death was so peaceful. Suddenly someone shouted, "Cinderella, do you know what time it is? You useless, lazy thing. Still the same as always." Hearing the shouting, Ella Ant was shocked and wondered inside. What? Am I not going to heaven but to hell? That must be it. How could I hear the voices of those evil stepsisters? Then Serafina gently touched Melody with her long finger and spoke surprised. "Oh my." The girl was dazed, thinking this feeling is too much. Serafina spoke again. "You look quite startled." The girl seemed to burst out. "Sarah!" The call of the two stepsisters of Serafina. He rang out again. Cinderella softly replied, "Yes, I'm coming right now, sisters." Elodie dealt with people who didn't believe the scene before their eyes. Impossible. How could Sarah be here? Don't tell me this unbelievable thing is true. No, I know it's illogical, but her face and voice are too clear to consider this a dream. Outside the dining table, the stepsister slammed the table and shouted loudly, "It's late, you filthy thing." Serafina hurried over. "I'm sorry, I will prepare right away." She looked at her with contempt. "What's wrong? Haven't you bathed yet?" The other stepsister sneered. "Why make such a fuss?" I think that's why her nickname is Cinderella, because she's always covered in dirt. Elodie stood behind, witnessing everything, thinking to herself, "It really feels like I've gone back to the past when they also called her those cruel names." Even though she had a proper name, Serafina Bluegood. This is also the magic of the fairy godmother. What if this really is the Bluegood mansion in the past, and the real fairy godmother really turned back time? Then for me, if I really were given another chance to protect... The sound of a man's hand pounding coldly on the table echoed through the room. He spoke, "It's too noisy." Ella briefly used that voice. It was Count Bluegood, Sarah's biological father, a man who never protected his own daughter. He was a worthless, despicable man. After Cinderella married the prince, unlike the stepmother and stepsisters who were punished, he clung to the family's glory and lived peacefully until the end, never paying for his sins, living comfortably off what he gained by handing over Sarah to the prince. Without him, Sarah might not have been so unhappy, madam. Bluegood spoke sternly. "Your daughter? Answer obediently." His tone was commanding. "Don't argue with your sisters." Thinking about giving birth to such a useless child and seeing her treated like that, Elodie's emotions surged. She was still too young. No matter how fast she matured, at this moment, Sarah was still just a little girl. That's why she clung to that prince, who only seemed good on the outside because besides him, no one ever reached out to help her. Hearing her father speak, she could only say, "I'm sorry." Elodie angrily rushed forward, telling herself that whether past or present, she was just a lowly mouse. But even if it meant dying, she saw the girl rushing over. Startled, he shouted, "What is it?" Elodie bit his face furiously. "I will never forgive you." The whole dining table erupted into chaos. The stepmother screamed in fear. "Oh my God! The stepsisters also shouted in terror, "A mouse is a mouse." At that moment, Elodie mocked him. Being bitten by such a little mouse is nothing. "Truly a drama queen," he screamed in pain. "It hurts. I'm telling you, it really hurts." She ordered the servants. "Why are you just standing there? Get that dangerous thing out of here." They obeyed immediately. "Yes," Serafina anxiously stopped them. "Wait, don't do that. Don't be so cruel. I will take it out myself." Worried inside, the girl feared Sarah would get hurt while protecting herself. The man dragged Serafina away, shouting at her to get out of the way. Elodie was tense inside. "No, Sira!" At that moment, Count Bluewood joyfully shouted, "Got it!" He raised his fist triumphantly. This filthy mouse. Right after, Elodie was cruelly thrown to the floor by Count Bluewood. "No!" Serafina screamed desperately. "No! No! It can't be! No! This is too much! Father, you don't have to throw it like that. Why did you do that?" He pointed at her face and scolded. "Shut up! Are you really defending the mouse that attacked me? Are you crazy?" She firmly retorted. "It's not dirty at all. It's a field mouse living in a clean flower field. Father would never find one like this in the mansion." The stepmother suddenly shouted, "What? Serafina Bluegood, you cherish such a filthy mouse. You're crazy. You really are crazy." She pulled her hair painfully. She trembled, looking at her with pleading eyes. "Mother!" But she continued to grab her hair and drag her away. "Hurry up, Serafina!" She trembled in fear, begging repeatedly. "Please forgive me, please!" The stepsister, with a smug face and no worry, asked, "Father, is he okay?" That one spoke with malice and satisfaction. "Poor thing, it's about to be punished again." He opened the door and entered the room, gruffly saying, "Enough already." In the storage room, the stepmother coldly threw her to the ground. "Too loud. Go count some beans and remember what you've done. You're not allowed out until you admit what you've done." Serafina knelt, repeatedly calling out, "Mother! Mother!" "Yes, I'm sorry. Please, mother, open the door." Hearing the pitiful cries, she froze and looked down at her palm. Serafina wondered what to do with this little thing. It wouldn't survive without medicine. She wanted to save it, but she couldn't even get out of the storage room herself. What could she do? She bowed her head, feeling regretful and crying. "Sister, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Why am I always so weak?" Elodie silently comforted herself inside. "Don't blame yourself, Sarah. I'm the one who rushed out without thinking. Even in the past, I couldn't comfort you or wipe your tears. I'm just a useless mouse. Nothing has changed since then." She smiled gently and spoke. "You're trying to comfort me, aren't you? Thank you even now." Her kindness never changed, and that kindness always saved me. "Sarah," Serafina bowed and talked with the little girl. "I think we really can become good friends." Although she was very kind and said so, Elodie choked up and felt conflicted inside. In the end, I made her cry again. The fairy godmother, why did she send me back? I still can't do anything for her. Serafina spoke gratefully. "Thank you for earlier, truly. Honestly, it felt pretty good. I have never seen Cha yell like that before when you bit Cha's nose. You made Cha angry. Am I right? You are really brave. You are just like the mouse in my favorite adventure story. You really are a brave mouse. I want to give you a name, a voice that keeps ringing in my head. Elodie. I want to name you that." She, with an excited and delighted expression, spoke expectantly. "Can I call you Elodie? A dirty, disgusting mouse. A repulsive mouse. Everyone treats you like that." Elodie felt touched. Except for Sarah. "Sarah is the only one who always cares about me, my useless squeak to others. She says it is courage, so I will not give up. No matter what happens, I will protect you." A warm and sparkling light suddenly radiated from the little mouse being held. In the arms, it gradually transformed into a pretty little girl. She was amazed at the miracle unfolding before her eyes. She was full of bewilderment. This cannot return to the extremely luxurious mansion made of shiny marble. Inside the room of Count Bluegood, he irritably asked loudly, "When will the doctor arrive? What if I get sick before the party?" A loud explosion startled him. He raised both hands to his mouth and shouted in panic. With a face drained of blood, Count Bluegood shouted, "What the hell is going on? Who dares to do this to my garden?" While screaming, he was startled. Sweat dotted Count Bluegood's face as he showed fear. That person was Beast Duke Van Christian. An officer approached from behind and reported, "Sir, urgent news." Duke Van Christian and the young master hadn't finished listening when he snapped, "That name? No, that person. Why is he coming to my mansion?" Outside the mansion, Duke Van Christian spoke. Edmund replied, "Yes, Count Bluegood, you might be surprised, but listen carefully. We came here for only one reason." At this moment in the warehouse, seeing the scene, Serafina was still shocked, unable to believe it. No way, you." Elodie was radiating a brilliant light, slowly descending. Outside, Edmund ordered the man, "You have 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to return the beast child you kidnapped." Serafina called out in shock, naming the girl Elodie. Count Bluegood immediately became frantic at his words, his voice trembling. "Beast? You accuse me of kidnapping a beast? How dare you trespass my garden and say such nonsense? Do you think you can storm in here without any evidence?" Duke Van Christian said calmly. "Then that's what he says," Edmund continued. "If you want proof, here is the magic orb. It points to the location of the only daughter of the Russell family, the Field Mouse clan, recently. Miss Russell was reported missing due to a curse, and we couldn't track any news. However, a while ago, The orb worked for no clear reason, pointing to the girl's location right here, in Bluegood's mansion. The words he just heard were hard to accept. He spoke again. Count, I warn you one last time. Duke Van Christian raised his hand to stop him. Enough, Edmund. If you keep insisting and pretending to be innocent, we have no choice but to enforce it. Blue magical light flared, and powerful magic circles appeared under his feet. Duke Van Christian said in a low voice, "What will happen now?" He felt uneasy inside. Before the party, is this forbidden magic? Is he really planning to destroy this entire mansion? I heard that. Beastmen have never stepped outside their territory. Those animals can't be inside this mansion. Right in the heart of the capital. Maybe at the border, but not here. And it's a field mouse. The thing I hate most in life. No beastmen in my mansion. It's just a mouse. Wait, a field mouse beastman? He recalled Seraphina's words. She's not dirty. She's a field mouse. She eats and lives in the clean flower garden. Only now did he realize, could it be that damn mouse? He trembled, his voice faltering. Wait, please, there must be some misunderstanding. As you can see, our mansion is very well managed. Even a mouse would have difficulty sneaking in, but I will have it searched for just in case. Where is that damn mouse? He asked. A mouse? What? He turned around and shouted. The one that Cinderella protected? The man hesitated to answer. If it's her, then Miss Seraphina. No, Miss Seraphina is holding it. He was satisfied. Good. Go check if it's still alive. If it is, execute it immediately. The man sweated nervously. Sir, do you not intend to treat its wounds? He lowered his voice to explain. You really don't know why the Van Christian clan is called the King of the Beastmen? Even with a peace treaty, there's no way we humans can live in harmony with them. The Van Christian Duke family is the only clan that communicates with the Beastmen at the border. A clan like that coming all the way here for a Beastman means it's not an ordinary citizen. If that thing reveals everything that happened here, we're all doomed. So erase all traces after returning to human form. The little girl called out in confusion. What's going on? Hearing Seraphina's voice, she looked up. Elodie, right? Are you okay? Are you hurt? Any broken bones? The girl answered innocently. No, ma'am. Her voice was worried and choked. Really? But you've been affected a lot. And your appearance. You are a beastman? The girl stammered. Wait, maybe. Yes, I've always been a mouse all my life. I've never turned into a human before. Sarah was a bit curious and somewhat interested, but the book said mice usually can't turn into humans. They say beastmen can transform into beasts and keep some beast traits in human form, so that means you're a field mouse beastman. Elodie, that's amazing! The girl's voice lowered, but there's no way such a miracle could happen. This happened to me. It must be a dream, right? I'm afraid it will disappear at any moment. And she feared. Silently, she looked at Elodie and whispered in her heart, I see. One day Elodie lived as a mouse, but with human thoughts. She must have endured a world harsher than I imagined. It's miraculous that she's still normal after all that. She hugged the girl to comfort her. It's okay, Elodie. When we get out of here, do everything you can do in human form. You and I will do it together. I know you're a bit confused now, but I'll help you. After all, you're my friend. Before she could finish, Enfet led a group of people in, shouting, They're in here! She was startled, clutching Elodie tightly, trembling. Enfet advanced with a cold face like a count who had given orders. She still held Elodie without letting go, voice wary. What are you doing here? He shouted loudly, commanding the people behind him. Catch that mouse beastman and deal with it. If it escapes, you'll die with it. Seraphina released the girl, her eyes flashing with determination. Her chest heaved with fear as she instructed Elodie to run. The girl ran, panting, feeling conflicted inside. What's going on? Can I really leave Sarah and run? They said mouse beastman, so they must mean me. But now I know how to turn into a human. Turning back into a mouse is as easy as pie. One of them shouted, Damn it, it ran into a hole in the wall, that filthy mouse. The people outside didn't give up and started breaking the hole bigger. The girl was terrified. This isn't capture, it's a hunt. This time they really want to execute me. She turned pale with fear, trying to stop them, but they didn't stop. The girl kept hiding, thinking, should I just let them execute me? Sarah said she'd stay with me, she'll help me. I want to be happy with her. I want to make her happy. That's why I can't die here. And Fett shouted fiercely, Damn it, just execute it already. Hurry before we get discovered. Hearing that, she tried to protect Ella. Stop! I tell you to stop! Why are you doing this? Suddenly, a man's voice rang out decisively and authoritatively. What are you doing there? Fighting with the wall? He was terrified and stammered. Young Duke Edmund Van Christian. Yes, a noble like you. Why are you here? She glimpsed at the people. Van Christian is the clan close to the Beastmen. If so, she pleaded urgently, Young Duke, please help me. These people are trying to execute my friend. Elodie hid in the wall crack. Sarah kept begging, please help her. Seeing Seraphina's desperate look, Enfet whispered in panic, No, if the young Duke notices, we're doomed. At least I have to pull this girl out of his sight. Enfet gritted his teeth and hurriedly dragged her away. She screamed in pain. He loudly tried to humiliate her in front of him. How dare you talk back here? Do you know who I am? I'm the heir of the prestigious Van Christian clan. A lowly girl like you has no right to speak to him. Did you hear me, you filthy maid? She recalled the merciless humiliations in the attic. It's a waste to keep you idle. You have no mother, and even the Count doesn't recognize you as his daughter. How can you call yourself a member of the Bluegood clan? You are just a filthy bastard covered in filth. A rude, filthy servant girl, weak and resisting. No, I won't. I am not a servant girl. I have lived my whole life being treated like that, a lonely life with no one by my side. The only reason I could endure until now is because of this little friend, and now that precious friend is in danger, how can I just stand by and blink without doing anything? She's no longer afraid, gritting her teeth and speaking firmly. My name is Seraphina Bluegood. I am the youngest daughter of the Bluegood family. He rolled his eyes and shouted angrily, "You're crazy! How dare you claim to be the youngest daughter of this family, truly foolish, ungrateful bastard who doesn't appreciate the master's kindness." She struggled and screamed desperately, "Let go!" I said let go, full of suspicion inside. Suddenly, what's wrong with this girl? Before, she always endured everything as if someone would listen to the words of this filthy thing. Then Edmund intervened, pulling his hand away. He grabbed the man's hand and spoke in a low voice, "Enough." The man trembled for a moment. The young duke, "Sorry, sir, for this rudeness. This girl is just a lowly person, unworthy of your concern. I will take her away immediately." But Edmund calmly replied with cold eyes. She said let go, but he squeezed her hand hard. The bastard didn't dare to shout, only thinking, "It hurts. It really hurts." How can a child like him be so strong? Seraphina looked at him hesitantly. The young duke interrupted her words. "Seraphina Bluegood? I have never heard that name. I have never heard the Bluegood family has a daughter with that name." She felt very humiliated. No, it can't be. He sneered inside, silently mocking, of course. The master has never acknowledged the merits of that woman. She clenched her trembling hand and said, "Do you believe me or not? It doesn't matter if you save my friend, who is hiding in the crack of that wall, then whatever happens, I don't care." Ella looked up and silently called Sira. She hurriedly continued, "She is a small beast man, a water vole, still learning how to transform. But with the help of the Van Christian family, she can be saved." He shouted bitterly. "How long do you intend to talk nonsense in front of the young duke? Young duke, don't waste your time listening to such words." Emun objected. "At least what she's saying now is not a lie." Ella, hiding in the crack, was also curious about that orb. Emun looked intently at the orb in his hand and spoke calmly. "The place she just mentioned matches the location we are searching for." "Miss?" She was surprised and thought to herself, "The lady they are looking for is here." Anfect seemed stunned and didn't dare to say a word behind. Seraphina suddenly realized, "That's right, the Van Christian family is looking for Elodie, thank God." Edmund continued, "And the magic orb points to the hole in that wall." Anfect turned to look there tensely. That's where the little mouse crawled in earlier. He clenched the wooden stick tightly. The pressure radiating from Edmund made the servant terrified. Stepping back step by step, he spoke coldly, "Wait, please listen to me. I'm sure we can resolve this peacefully." But Edmund didn't care much. Tightening his grip on the stick, his cold eyes prepared to deliver a strong sweep. Blue light exploded. The strike shattered part of the wall. He ran away in fear. He stood silently, showing no emotion, looking at his own accomplishment. Then Edmund slightly curled his lips and spoke warmly. "I know you are here, Miss Russell." Ella's eyes widened, stunned, mouth agape looking at him. He broke the wall with just a stick. Edmund slowly sat down, reaching out to the girl with a gentle smile. "Don't worry, I'm here to rescue you." The girl wondered who this person was when he transformed back into human form. The girl trembled, hugging her tightly, calling her name Sarah. She choked up, gently patting the girl's back. "Ella, I'm sorry, Ella. You were in danger and I couldn't do anything. Why are you always so useless?" The girl hurried to reassure her. "I'm fine, and you, Sarah, are not useless at all. I know you will be scolded and hurt, but you still helped me. Courage isn't just about winning." "She is the bravest person I have ever known." She smiled gently, closed her eyes, and softly replied, At that moment, Edmund approached kindly and handed her a pristine white handkerchief. His words carried a hint of concern. "Here, wipe your tears." She looked up, her eyes shining with surprise, her cheeks flushed as if her heart had been touched. Seraphina's hands trembled slightly. Sincerely, she took the handkerchief from him. "Thank you." She wanted to wipe the dirt off Elodie's face. The little girl stared blankly at Seraphina. Elodie looked at Edmund suspiciously. "That guy just now, was he flirting with our Sarah?" She was just embarrassed because she cried in front of a boy her age. Elodie was silently calculating in her heart. "I'm grateful he helped, but there's no way I'll let him get close to Selah." He left but didn't forget to remind. "If you're calm now, let's go to the living room. The Duke is waiting for you." Surprised, Elodie responded. Inwardly, she screamed, "You're standing too close. I told you not to get near her today at the couple's mansion." Count Bluegood was hosting Duke Van Christian. The Countess put on a friendly face to please him, saying, "Oh my, it's truly an honor to have such a distinguished guest visit this humble mansion. Oh my, really now? Duke Van Christian has arrived and you didn't say anything to me? If I had known earlier, I would have had the daughters prepare to greet him first," said Countess Bluegood. Sitting beside her, he looked at his wife with a warning, annoyed gaze. "Shut up, this woman. The Duke didn't come here for that. And honestly, how long does it take to execute that cowardly rat? There should have been a report by now. Surely they didn't cause trouble here." Duke Van Christian also heard footsteps approaching and calmly spoke. "Let him in." Count Bluegood glanced toward the door and respectfully replied, Yes, please let him in, though inwardly a bit nervous. Finally done. The door slowly opened. Edmund went in first, followed by Seraphina holding Elodie in her arms. He politely said, "Sir, I have brought Miss Russell here." Count Bluegood immediately jumped up from his seat. His face changed. That was not just a servant, that was little Duke Van Christian. And besides him were SEA and that rat. Don't call it a rat, it's a beastman. Wait, does the little Duke know that? We tried to execute that rat? Of course, if we could deceive the Duke, we could cover this up. He pretended to be a model father, spreading his arms and stepping forward in front of Seraphina. "Sarah, you saved Miss Russell?" Silently calculating. Better to let Sarah go along and act as if she saved that creature. He gently patted her shoulder and kindly said, "Well done. I will reward you later. Now bring the young lady here and leave." Seraphina stared at him confused. "What?" But Elodie was hugging her neck, hateful. "How dare you touch Sarah, you damn old man. I can see through your scheme. You intend to send Sarah away where the Duke won't see, then threaten me to cover it up." Count Bluegood, impatient, urged again, "Now bring the young lady here." Seeing this, Elodie became even angrier. She opened her mouth wide as if preparing to bite his hand before he could touch her. "Do you think I'll just sit still? If you think I'm an ordinary child, you're about to regret it." Count Bluegood shouted miserably, biting his lip. It hurts, you crazy rat. We should have executed you from the start." "Oh no." Edmund, standing behind him, stiffened his face and coldly questioned, "Did you order the servant to execute Miss Russell?" Count Bluegood's wife stood up in panic to stop her husband. "What's going on?" Meanwhile, he looked pale and tried to deny. "I never gave such an order. If anything, it was the servant's own intention. Nothing to do with me." Hearing this, Elodie pursed her lips, thinking, "Lying now." Count Duke Van Christian scratched his ear, as if annoyed by the noise of the Bluegood couple. He had already seen through everything. "So, you intend to deny to the end?" "Listen, Count Bluegood, I suspected you from the start, but your nephew asked me to reconsider, and he insisted. Maybe you were falsely accused, but look here. From the golden earring on your hand comes a voice. Here it is, as the master said." Count Bluegood looked incredulous. That voice was Alfred's, and Alfred loudly ordered the other servants to seize that beastman rat and execute it immediately. Another servant shouted, "Damn it, it ran into a hole in the wall, that damn thing." She was furious. "Damn it, hurry up and execute it before it gets away." At that moment, Seraphina just happened to arrive. She loudly stopped them. "Stop! What are you doing?" Count Bluegood suddenly realized, why is the voice coming from that earring? If you wear it on one side, can hear all conversations through the magical earrings as Duke Van Christian passes by him, deliberately VA into him, whistling to the side while he himself seems rooted to the spot, laughed at himself, thinking he only needed to worry about the Duke, but the Lord already knew everything from the start. Duke Van Christian approached Seraphina with a fairly gentle tone, saying, "Come here for a moment." Elodie clung tighter to Seraphina's neck, shaking her head vigorously. "No, I'm scared. I don't want to." To ease the awkward situation, she threw the girl toward him, then comforted. "It's okay, Elodie. He's harmless," the girl startled, looking at her. "No, Duke Van." Christian took Ella and hugged her, raising his hand to the earring and said, "Yes, we have found the young lady." The girl pursed her lips and looked up at him, wondering in her mind who he was talking to. Duke Van Christian. As if reporting to someone through the magical earrings, she seemed unhurt, despite clearly being in danger. "What do you want to do?" The surrounding space was very quiet. The sound of squeaking echoed through the earrings. Very clearly, those there except him were equally puzzled by the squeaking from the other side. Apparently not wanting someone to understand their plan, they used the sound of mice to communicate with the Duke. Van Christian after a moment replied, "I understand. Elodie is inside." He somewhat understood the content of their conversation. "Severe punishment, huh?" Duke Van Christian continued to the other party. "It's not impossible. I will handle it as directed." The Bluegood Count and Countess were extremely confused. His wife anxiously asked, "What is it?" But even he was unclear about what was going on. After finishing the conversation, Duke Van Christian turned to look at the two with cold eyes. "Count, you'd better not think about running. If you are in a place where animals can hear and see, they will find you." The Bluegood Count and Countess were scared stiff, their faces pale before leaving. Duke Van Christian left with a final sentence. "Then see you later." The Bluegood Count collapsed to the ground. "We're doomed. Our family is doomed." His wife tried to calm herself. "Calm down." Duke Van Christian hugged Ella and left. In his arms, he softened his voice. "Our business here is done. Let's go. I don't want to stay here another moment." In the mansion hallway, Edmund, walking behind, spoke. "Miss Russell, I will escort you back to the Russell family. Please come with me, Ella." Len glanced at him curiously and asked, "My family? Do I have parents?" Edmund smiled gently at the girl and replied, "Yes, they have always longed to find you." Ella's eyes sparkled innocently. Her cheeks gradually flushed pink as she thought, "Always? I not only know I am a beastman, but it turns out I am the missing daughter of a noble family. My parents have always been searching for me. That's why the Van Christian family came all the way here to save me. Everything is so confusing. But even if I can't remember them, I want to meet them, my family. And if Duke Van Christian himself came looking for me, it means I belong to a high-status family, right? When I go home, I can dress Sarah nicely, feed her delicious food, and we can roll around together on a soft bed. Thinking of this, Elodie was very happy and excited. She sat up and looked towards Serafina. Sarah, you will come with me, right? She was quite surprised by the question. Me too? She seemed to be pondering. I had never thought about this before. The thought of leaving this house herself. Can I really be happy? Leaving here with Elodie. Suddenly, Elodie returned to her beast form. The girl eagerly looked at her. Let's go together, Sarah. But faced with her cuteness, Serafina could no longer hold back. She firmly chose, no, I want to be happy with Elodie. She raised her hands to catch Elodie and decisively replied, yes, I will go with you, dreaming of a happy life with Sarah. We have arrived at the Russell family mansion. Standing before a magnificent mansion, Ella was so excited she cried, it's just like this. No one said it was only this big, she thought as she brought Sarah here with the dream of a prosperous and luxurious life, which was extremely large. Seeing the girl's reaction, Serafina covered her mouth and exclaimed, so cute! The girl jumped excitedly on the ground, squeaking. Elena held her head thinking, I'm doomed. At this rate, I can't even bring Serafina into the castle, let alone think about happiness. Duke Van Christian slightly bowed down to speak with the guard, saying, we have come to see the Pope. Serafina heard it and immediately looked this way. The Pope, while Elodie was still dazzled by her dream with Sarah. After hearing Duke Van Christian's words, Serafina immediately formed a suspicion in her mind. Then she quickly whispered to the little girl, hey Elodie, don't tell me that. Your parents are the Supreme Pope of Animalonia or something? At her question, Elodie instantly froze. What did you just say? Wake up to reality. This world is divided into two six territories. Terranolia, where only humans live. Animalonia, where only beastmen live. And the Van Grayson territory located at the border between the two six territories. In other words, both six territories are completely isolated. People from this side cannot cross to the other, without careful consideration from Van Grayson, the mysterious land of beastmen. Completely separated from the human world, and my parents are the supreme pope of such a land? Thinking back, I remember hearing that the daughter of the former pope in Animalonia went missing when she was young. Among beastmen, abilities are passed down through generations in the same bloodline, so the family with the strongest healing power has always held the position of supreme pope. So the reason my wound healed was because, when I first became human, it was because I inherited the healing power. At that moment, the guard responded to Duke Van Christian's request, saying the Pope is waiting in the guest room. Then Duke Van Christian turned to Elodie, kneeling on one knee on the ground. He extended his hand in front of her. Please go this way. But Elodie looked very small. Sitting neatly in his palm, she looked forward, her eyes shining. These people are her parents, the Pope and her mother standing at the city gate. Tears welled up. My child. Elodie jumped down from Duke Van Christian's palm. I want to see them, but now that I'm really here, it feels a bit suffocating. What kind of expression should I show them? How should I start? Every day of my life has been a struggle to survive. I wonder if I have a family. That is a luxury I cannot reach. I spent those times searching for a scrap of food. I have lived like that my whole life. And now, after all this time, what should I do with my family? Meanwhile, Elodie's mother stepped forward and hugged her tightly. Her voice choked. My child, is it really you? Oh God. Please forgive us. We sincerely apologize. The Pope also embraced his wife and child. The emotional reunion of the three-family scene. Little one, you finally came back. Little one, we finally meet again. Elodie also teared up, thinking heavily in her mind, this is the weight of family, love and great longing that I can count on. They truly believed I would return and waited. In the end, I do have a family. I also have parents. I have never been alone. Her voice choked but carried immense happiness. You're home. The three of them hugged and cried, releasing all the long-held longing. Seeing my parents cry so much, Elodie tried to comfort them. Please don't cry. I'm really okay. Yes, Sarah has always protected me. She was by my side when everything was difficult. Thanks to her, I overcame everything. The Pope was a bit surprised to hear that. He looked at Serafina and asked, do you mean the girl who took care of you? The girl turned back to look at her and confirmed, yes. Immediately after, the Pope ordered the servants to prepare a feast at once. We must treat our benefactor with great respect. The servants promptly acknowledged the order. Yes, sir. After a while, a table full of pastries and fresh fruits was laid out, but they were sized for beastmen. Serafina didn't mind much. She sat beside and let out a delighted sigh. She smiled brightly and said, thank you very much. These dishes are so small and cute. Hearing this, Elodie thought silently. Sarah, seems like she finds them adorable. Mother Ella kept picking food onto the plate for the little girl. Try this, dear. It's a nutritious dish for field mice. The girl felt a bit awkward and replied, I will eat by myself, ma'am. It's not proper for a mother to feed you like that. The Pope cleared his throat and said, Madam was too emotional earlier and couldn't control herself, but everything must follow the proper order, right? Looking at his expression, Ella thought, indeed, the Pope is very strict, but it was not as she had imagined. He was even more worried about the girl than the changes in the environment that might startle her. So let's start feeding the girl some warm soup gradually. His words made Elodie feel like she was bothering others. Wait, it gets even more tiring. Then the Pope laughed loudly and told the girl to try this dish and that one too. Her mother then turned hesitantly and said, "Dear, the Duke told us that you can transform into human form. If it's true, can I ask how the curse was broken?" Elodie took a spoonful of soup and asked in surprise about the curse. The girl thought silently. Thinking back, she was told there was a curse that turned her into an animal. If it was powerful enough that magic couldn't detect it, then it must be a pretty strong curse. So how did I manage to break the curse? The only person beside me at that time was Sarah. Could it be that Sarah did something to it? The girl was not sure. It was only speculation, so she hadn't told her parents. Pretending to be embarrassed and scratching her head, she replied, "I'm not sure how it happened either, Mom." The girl didn't ask more, but just exclaimed curiously, "Wow, the curse on you can only be broken by a true love's kiss. To return you to human form," the lady finished speaking. Elodie seemed to remember something. Her whole body was sweating profusely. True love right after that. The girl suddenly transformed back into human form, blushing, calling Serafina, "Sarah, sister, I love you, Sarah." When she heard the girl's question, she was a bit confused, but then she smiled softly, scratched her neck, and beamed brightly. "Of course, I fell for you at first sight. Anyone would." At this moment, Elodie's heart was pounding. She had to hold her chest tightly to stay calm. "Sarah, that's what you should have said. How can someone be that pure? My benefactor, my happiness, my everything." The girl quickly walked to Serafina. "I already knew. It's just that I couldn't tell my parents. I want to live with Sarah in the human world. Please bless us." All the beast men there were stunned by the girl's decision. The Pope and the lady spoke in unison. "What did you just say?" However, Elodie hesitated a bit, but then was very determined with her choice. "Of course, finding a family that I never knew is precious. But what I want is not just my own happiness." She placed both hands on Serafina's shoulders seriously and said, "I will keep my promise no matter what happens." "I don't want to see Senna sad again," the girl thought. "What I truly want." Her voice was still childish, but carried a determination that was hard to change. "I will make Sister Sarah happy for life." Serafina was extremely surprised and couldn't believe it. Elodie didn't explain the reason clearly, but had it engraved in her heart because it was Sarah's happiness. And Elodie almost begged her parents, "Please, parents, let me go," with her daughter's determination. The lady couldn't refuse, "Dear, if you really feel that way, then live for a while at the Van Christian family mansion." The Pope was startled when he heard her say that. He wanted his wife to reconsider. The lady decided, "Is it too rushed?" She shook her head and replied, "As you know." When the Pope worriedly looked at the lady, Duke Van Christian knelt on one knee before the two of them and asked with concern, "Actually, I suspected this would happen, and it would be difficult for you, but Van Christian did not stop anyone who wanted to come. But is this okay, Pope?" The Pope hesitated a bit, then asked Duke Van Christian, "Please ensure the girl's safety." He put his hand on his chest and bowed respectfully. "Don't worry." Elodie stood aside observing everything, thinking to herself, "Even though Dad's face looked like he was about to scream in worry, he didn't try to persuade me to stay. If I were really 5 years old, I wouldn't have noticed. But surely something was very strange," I said. "Sarah broke the curse for me, but no one here seemed to have been freed from the curse, including my parents. Why must someone as powerful as the Pope live, hiding, and even send his missing daughter away for years?" I think finally I began to piece together the reason they let me go. Although reluctantly, it was probably to protect me from an external threat, and the proof of that threat lies in the future that has not yet come. 15 years from now, the position of Pope in Animalia will not be held by someone from the field mouse family, but it's the family of a venomous snake species. How could it all be a coincidence? If that's the case, then the future story that I know is related to this much. Ella turned her gaze toward her mother and called her, "Mom." The lady immediately responded, "Speaking of which, the human friend you brought home, her name is Sierra, right? Duke Van?" Christian conveyed her words to Serafina. "So we should call you Sarah if you're okay with that." Serafina politely agreed. "Yes, She blushed and spoke to her, and Duke Van Christian relayed the message, "Thank you for saving my daughter. I owe you a debt I can never repay in this lifetime," were her words as Serafina knelt before the lady. She denied her contribution. No, not at all. I was the one helped by Elodie," the lady asked with interest. "So the girl's name is Elodie?" She covered her mouth worriedly and replied, "Sorry for calling her that without permission. That's the name I gave her before." The lady smiled softly. "It's fine. If my daughter is Elodie, then just call her Elodie." "Sarah, you're the one who gave her the new name, right?" Elodie looked at her mother emotionally. "Mom, yes, even though the future I've been through hasn't changed the fact that my parents waited for me a long time. And now Sarah isn't the only person I cherish." The girl slightly bowed and curiously asked her mother, "So what was my original name? I want to know." She hesitated a bit, then said, It's a very beautiful name. Gracia Russell, that's your name." Elodie hugged her chest. Gracia. A warm, happy feeling ran through her heart. That's a beautiful name. And Elodie Gracia, both names given by those who love me. I will always cherish them. Before she left, the Pope had a servant bring a box. "My dear, take this with you." Elodie was both surprised and curious, asking, "Is that from him?" The servant opened the box and replied, "A holy hammer. Only a descendant of the Russell family can be the owner of this hammer." The girl stared intently at the hammer, thinking to herself, "Don't tell me the Russell family's power is holy physical strength, but using this to fight AI? it seems useless. As if reading her thoughts, the Pope seriously warned, "You must not swing it at others." Elodie was startled upon hearing that. He noticed, and she obediently replied, "Yes, but is it really okay to give it to me now?" The Pope pondered and said, "In the end, I intended to pass it on to you anyway. And who knows what might happen to me, right, Mom?" Elodie screamed inwardly. If Dad keeps showing it like that, then she might as well tell the whole truth, that Dad is cursed and now cannot fulfill his noble duty. The Pope also added, "If you ever feel in danger, just use it to fight anything. The hammer will lead you to a safe place." Then Elodie held the holy charm box in her hand and asked excitedly, "Besides teleporting to a safe place, what else can it do?" The Pope's tone turned stern. "My dear, never use that hammer except to escape danger." Ella paused a bit. "So it really can do other things?" Her father seriously said, "You'll never know what might happen. Even Duke Van Christian isn't always safe. I'm giving it to you just in case the time comes." "Yes, promise me, okay? If that time comes, promise me you'll run away instead of doing something dangerous." Elodie answered to reassure her parents, "Yes, I promise." In her heart, she sighed quietly, glad she didn't pry into the curse. If she showed curiosity about it, they might have done anything to protect her from danger. So now it's better for her to leave without letting anyone know she's trying to find out the truth. Then Elodie hugged the holy charm box tightly in her hand. She couldn't help but feel sad and reluctant, saying, "So, dear parents, I'm leaving now." The Pope, though a bit reluctant, he still wholeheartedly supported his daughter. "My dear, go safely. Duke, I entrust her to your care." "And Sarah, thank you, my daughter Gracia Elodie." After bidding farewell to her family, Elodie, Serafina, and Duke Van Christian got into a carriage to go to his territory. Elodie looked out the window, her eyes shining brightly with excitement. "This is Van Christian, amazing!" The girl couldn't help but exclaim. "It's vast and crowded, but the roads are very clean and peaceful." "Amazing! Isn't that a sheep beastman?" Duke Van Christian replied. "Yes, that's right." The girl was a bit surprised and continued, "And next to it is a wolf beastman." He nodded. "Seems so." Little Elodie felt very strange. "Why hasn't anyone discovered this yet?" The little girl anxiously asked Duke Van Christian if he might have been eaten or something. He reassured the little girl not to worry, saying that what she imagined would not happen. At that moment, Elodie was extremely delighted and exclaimed, "Really?" Duke Van Christian sat with his arms crossed, sighed deeply, and replied, "It's still too early to be surprised." "After all, this is Van Christian," Eamon said with a smile to the little lady. "Van Christian's mansion is much bigger than this market," Elodie asked curiously and excitedly. "Bigger than here?" Eamon gently replied. "That's right. From now on, that will be where you live. The mansion is also a peaceful place, so living there will bring no trouble to you." Elodie looked outside through the window, mumbling about the mansion with a somewhat downcast expression. Duke Van Christian immediately asked, "Is there a problem?" "Why, Ella?" Startled, she awkwardly replied, "No, I'm just excited. I can't wait to see the mansion." Serafina, sitting beside her, couldn't help but laugh at the little girl's adorable appearance. "So cute," Edmund said, turning to Duke Van Christian. "When we arrive, we should prepare a room for the little lady first." He smiled softly. "Of course," the Duke replied with a slight smile. Van Christian's carriage driver announced to Edmund, "Young master, we have arrived." The servants and beastmen at the mansion were all amazed and curious when they saw Elodie. She was the missing little lady of the Russell family. Is she really from the Russell family? Surrounded by many curious eyes, the little girl seemed quite panicked. The murmurs of the beastmen's servants made her feel truly afraid. "She's really adorable," someone said, seeing the little girl's pale face and trembling body. Serafina approached and gently bent down to ask Elodie, "Are you okay? You don't look well." Elodie forced a smile and replied, "Yes, it's just that there are too many people." She recalled the days of being chased away and having to run away constantly. "I'm still afraid of being the center of attention. I've never liked being noticed. I know I'm no longer an ordinary mouse, but I can't forget the bad memories from my past life. I don't want to make Sister Sarah worry about this." Serafina held the little girl's small hand, unsure how to comfort her. Edmund had noticed this too. He stepped forward and called to a nearby male servant. "Hey, help, help!" The servant raised his hand and responded, "Yes, help, help." Moon, Jack's stern butler, said that no matter how cute the little lady was, staring like that was rude. Help immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, but why am I the only one being scolded?" Others were also watching, but Edmund crossed his arms and said bluntly, "Because your expression looks the most threatening." His words shocked and hurt Help deeply. "A child can be frightened by your gaze, so be careful and keep the entire Silver Knight squad withdrawn. From now on, do not follow the pack anymore." Hearing this, Help felt very confused and thought to himself, "But wolves are pack animals." While he was gloomy, Leopard stepped forward, pounding his chest and saying, "Young master, I will take responsibility for protecting the little lady." Edmund seriously reminded him, "Leopard, you're no different." He still grinned confidently, "But I'm better looking than Help, right?" Edmund's face darkened and his tone grew colder. "Don't talk nonsense. Carnivorous beastmen must stay away from Lady Russell from now on." Both Hope and Leopard were shocked and shouted in unison. "What?" Eamon added, surprising the dog and cat beastmen as well. "They can still scare the little lady, so everyone should go back." They quietly turned and left. Someone even complained to him, "That's too cruel, young master." Elodie, standing behind, had calmed down and looked toward Edmund, thinking, "Is he worried about me?" Duke Van Christian saw that everything had been resolved smoothly. Then now there's no need to worry. He gently patted the little girl's head and said, "Let's go inside." Elodie hugged her chest, her cheeks flushed, and looked up at him, feeling much more comfortable and at ease inside. Van Christian truly had a free and open atmosphere. At first glance, it seemed strictly managed, but humans and beastmen talked to each other without hesitation. That's right, there was a time like this, a time when humans and beastmen under Van Christian's care lived harmoniously without hatred on the land they were allowed to live on. The center of that era was Duke Van Christian, but this peace would soon come to an end in the future, as I recall. 5 years later from now, Duke Van Christian, the symbol of peace, will have to face death. After the Duke died from a sudden heart attack with no explanation, minor conflicts between humans and beastmen began to arise, escalating, and a series of beastmen massacres occurred, further straining the relationship between the two sides. Eventually, the peace treaty lapsed, leading to widespread slaughter and finally the outbreak of the Third War. Edmund fought silently until the end, until he died without a body left behind. After that day, both sides suddenly agreed to a ceasefire, and Van Christian was blamed as the source of the war and completely erased. Of course, many years later, Van Christian was erased as the source of the war, but by then peace was lost, and the rift between humans and beastmen deepened. In the end, despite all he had been through, Edmund could protect nothing. Seeing Elodie staring at him intently, Edmund smiled softly and asked if something was wrong. The young lady tightly gripped the hem of her dress, silently thinking, "But if I knew the future, maybe I could change something. I don't know if a tiny little mouse like me can stop the war or extinction, but at least I want to repay the kindness of the two people who helped me." Then the girl hesitated a bit before replying to Edmund, "You know, yes, I really hope you, Duke, live a long life." Duke Van Christian was walking by and turned to look at Ella, asking, "What do you mean by that?" The girl's eyes lit up brightly, affirming firmly, "Yes, in the future I should take care of your health. You can't look after yourself like this." "But you're still a member of the Russell family," Duke Van Christian asked with interest. "And what will you do?" "My father told me there's no illness the Russell family can't cure, external injuries, plagues, even insomnia or heart disease. Although the scope of what can be cured depends on the individual. If I can awaken the family's power, with that talisman." Immediately after, Duke Van Christian crossed his arms and closed his eyes, saying, "No need, Elodie." She gasped in surprise, shouting, "Why?" And he sighed, replying, "I understand my body best." The girl clenched her hands tightly, worried inside whether he might be about to die. He will die. His next words made Elodie unable to argue. "Isn't the Pope the one who said you can only use the holy relic in emergencies? Do you think the holy hammer is a child's toy? If you use it recklessly and I catch it, you're done for." Seeing Duke Van Christian so serious and intimidating, Edmund stepped forward to rescue her. "Sir, that's not it. The young lady just wants to play the doctor." He glanced at Edmund playing the doctor. Elodie was unhappy, thinking it was wrong. "He thinks I'm a child?" Duke Van Christian softened his voice to comfort her. "I thought I could make you happy once. But don't worry about my health. My doctor said I'll live another 55 years. The girl reacted, "What, 55? He will die from heart disease, so I thought he would have some condition, but it's not like that?" Then maybe someone intervened. "In situations like this, it's highly likely the food was tampered with. If so, I need to check everything he eats carefully. That's the best I can do right now. Now I've arrived at Van Christian's place. I can't stand by and watch the Duke die. I won't let the tragedy happen again." The girl Elodie opened her big, round, sparkling eyes in amazement. She was stunned by the magnificent interior decoration. "This vast place is my room. This is the first time I have my own space. Until now, the only place I could rest peacefully was in Sarah's arms. But in this huge place, I don't know what to do." Because of that, Elodie became more determined, promising herself she needs to train her body. From now on, she will be Sarah's protector. "I have to build strength and overcome my fear of crowds." But a strange noise coming from somewhere made the girl so worried she froze. "Is someone coming in?" Ella went to wait. The squirrel appeared and politely introduced herself. "Hello, young lady. I am the chief squirrel maid from now on, young lady. Why are you there?" "Hello, young lady. I am the chief maid of the household from now on. Young lady, why are you there?" Elodie was brushed off by the maid who dusted her off, embarrassed and making an excuse. "I thought I saw something under the bed." In her mind, she was startled by the misunderstanding. The maid paid little attention and continued offering help. "You should change your clothes now." The girl looked at her dirty, stained outfit. Then she asked innocently, "Why do I just need to dust off my clothes?" The maid patiently explained, "They look a bit small on you, and you've been wearing them all day." Ella then lightly moved her arm, secretly inspecting. "Maybe because the clothes I wore before being cursed were already 2 years old, so telling SAO it was tight, the NPC proactively suggested, and I also brought some clothes for you to try on. Do you want to see?" However, LD didn't show much interest, so it's not much of a problem. Seeing that, Thaw immediately brought out a dress with a cute style to model and start a conversation. "But there are many clothes for the young lady. Do you like any style?" Indeed, this sparkling thing suits Elodie, who indifferently followed the lively discussion between the two maids. I don't care about design or color, clothes can't be eaten anyway. Then the girl suddenly noticed the stroller full of gifts. All of these are mine, Thaw enthusiastically explained after hearing that. The boxes underneath are clothes for the young lady Blue Good. Seeing Elodie more focused, Sock smiled and added, they might be a bit big for you. The girl suddenly interrupted, blue sky, Sister Sarah likes sky blue. Sock was flustered for a moment before realizing the content inside. For the young lady Blue Gus. Elodie was still excitedly focused on choosing clothes. That's right, yellow also suits her. The girl's sudden shift of attention made Sock awkwardly remind the young lady, even so, it's better if you also pick a few things for yourself. However, Elodie seemed to ignore those words and happily turned to ask for opinions. Do you think this will suit Sister Sarah? There was no other way but to sit down and discuss with the girl. Yes, we also have matching shoes, Elodie enthusiastically evaluated. These clothes are so beautiful. I also like this one, Dan said as the large boxes were continuously opened and spread all over the floor, amid the two's discussion about which one is prettier here or there. But I like the one on the left better. What about this one? After a long time of careful selection, Elodie excitedly brought the results in her hands. Sister Sarah, these are new clothes I picked for you. Seraphina hurried out to greet Elodie. You must be tired. You came all the way here just to bring these for me. Elodie didn't hesitate to express her anticipation. Yes, I want to see you wear them. The items inside the box surprised her. Elodie, how can you pick things that suit my taste so well? How does SAO have such pretty outfits? Elodie was proud and perked up at the recognition. Of course I can. I can list hundreds of things Sister Sarah likes. Seraphina brought out a graceful blue dress and tried it on. Wow, Elodie, does this suit you? Her heart was attacked by the girl's radiant smile. Suddenly it fluttered repeatedly as if there was a halo around her. The real-life angel was here, outwardly praising wholeheartedly. It suits you very well. Seraphine expressed her gratitude. Thank you, Elodie. I also just picked clothes that suit you. What a coincidence. Elodie was a bit confused, repeating, clothes that suit you. And then, the image of the outfits perfectly sized for the girl carefully arranged on the bed answered that question. From pajamas to play clothes, all were children's clothes, right Elodie? Seemingly still unable to believe this joy, Sister Sarah was also choosing clothes for her. SAO Seraphina frankly showed concern. That's right, there are so many I haven't seen them all yet, but I've picked a few. Others have helped me too. Actually, since you turned into a person, Elodie, I've always wanted to do this for you. I hope you like it. Elodie looked at Seraphina's gentle, kind face, emotion welling up inside her as she thought about Sarah. Also thinking the same, Sister Sarah really loved her, even though she was still wearing old clothes. She thought of me first. That was what she gave me. Sarah say, I might not like every single thing, but each is precious. The clothes Sister Sarah chose for me, I think I will love them forever. Then Elodie excitedly urged Sarah. Try on the clothes I picked quickly. Seraphina seemed infected by the joy in the girl's eyes. Okay, she went to wash and try them on, so the girl wouldn't feel bored waiting, Sock thoughtfully suggested. She was allowed to go wash up and try on clothes to keep the girl from getting bored while waiting. The maid thoughtfully suggested. Young lady, would you like to take a walk around the mansion while you wait? Ella agreed with the idea. She politely extended her hand and invited, then let's go. The two began their tour along the mansion's hallway. The maid took the initiative to act as the guide. This building is where the Duke usually stays. Ella couldn't help but look around curiously. Suddenly, her attention was drawn away by a scene, ignoring the maid's steady chatter. Miss probably doesn't have many reasons to come here often, but yes, ma'am. In front of the two of them, Duke Van Christian was seriously informing the person beside him. I will investigate myself and report back. The eagle respectfully accepted the order and replied, yes, ma'am. Meanwhile, Elodie quietly assessed the Duke and the person next to him, not knowing who he was but noticing he was very tall. The Duke was already tall, yet there was someone even taller. The squirrel quickly regained composure and immediately bowed to him. Greetings, Duke. After hearing this, Ella regained her composure and politely greeted him. Hello. Duke Van Christian was somewhat surprised by their unannounced presence. What's going on here? The squirrel hurriedly explained the reason. I'm showing the young lady around because she just arrived here, ma'am. Temporarily set aside your work. Perfect timing. Since we're all here, let's finish everything at once. These words shocked Elodie, who focused on the key point. Finish everything at once. Inside, she panicked and screamed loudly. Finish what? Me? Then Duke Van Christian slowly reached out his hand toward the little girl. Contrary to Elodie's extreme fear, he naturally lifted her onto his shoulder, as light as a feather. You said you wanted to play doctor, right? Elodie was silently stunned by the reminder. Play doctor right now? Duke Van Christian gave a faint smile. Sorry, but this old man is busy. Your legs are short. Then before sunset, the office isn't reached yet, so let's keep moving like this. Elodie was firmly supported by him, pouting and sulking. Holding her anger inside, she thought, he said my legs are short and that I can't get there before sunset. I will remember these words and take revenge. On the second day, Elodie sat expressionless and motionless on the sofa, bored, and asked Duke Van Christian, who brought her here, what are you doing? He answered succinctly, working. Elodie awkwardly reminded him, isn't this the doctor game? Feeling a bit confused inside. Because of his strange behavior, whether it's a game or not, this place is full of documents. Should children be allowed here? However, Duke Van Christian presented a very convincing argument. Observation is the foundation of a doctor. That's right, just sit quietly and observe. If you get bored, I'll call the squirrel. After hearing this, Elodie just felt speechless. He wasn't serious, thinking this was a doctor game, right? His mind was full of work. Thinking this, a sudden deduction crossed her mind. Could his heart pain be from overwork? Then I can't help at all. It's not that I can work for him. Just then, the maid pushed the service cart to the Duke's side. I've prepared tea for you, sir. Elodie suddenly noticed something strange. The scent was from Cinderella tea, famous for its mind-sharpening effects. But using stimulating tea too often isn't good. If he works this much, there's no other way. First, I need to stop him from drinking that tea. That's the herbal powder from the Velma kingdom. If mixed, it becomes poison, a substance that paralyzes the nervous system. I must stop him. Thinking this, Elodie immediately rushed to Duke Van Christian's desk at lightning speed without any hesitation. His tea was also stopped midway by this action. Miss, there was a loud, unusual noise inside, making the eagle rush in to check the situation. Duke, are you okay? Elodie lay face down on the floor, holding her nose and groaning in pain. Duke Van Christian worriedly helped her up, then scolded her. I really can't take my eyes off you for a second. Ella softly retorted, that's not true. Then he asked cautiously, so this sudden event, is it part of the game? Elodie suddenly remembered the truth and loudly warned him not to mix the teas. Cinderella and the herbal powder from the Velma kingdom, if mixed, it will paralyze you. It becomes a trend for 5 years from now. Dissolving Velma herbal powder into Cinderella tea was tested to create a stronger effect, but when both are mixed in a certain ratio, the nervous system becomes paralyzed, losing all sensation and pain. Because of that, after the trend spread, many nobles reported consequences about half a year later. Elodie was stressed, realizing the seriousness of the problem. It is extremely dangerous for knights like Duke Van Christian, those who rely on their senses. The Duke Van Christian silently stated the truth. I often mix them in and have no problems at all. The girl said confidently upon hearing that, please believe me, that is what my parents told me for sure, but inside I felt guilty for making excuses. My parents borrowed the names of 2 people for a moment. Indeed, his expression immediately became dark and his eyebrows furrowed tightly. If even the Pope said so, then it must be reliable information. At this point, the maid suddenly spoke in alarm. I don't know. I heard that is a common method used to stay alert in the capital. I only did what I was told. Duke Van Christian still used a cold gaze. Scrutinizing her expression, the maid tearfully weakly confirmed once again. It's true, Duke. Thanks to that he drew the conclusion. So it's not a lie. And Elodie silently admired that keen observation ability. Just by looking, can you guess? Amazing. But Velma's herbs were only recently adjusted. That combo couldn't have become popular yet. Who told her that? As if reading Elodie's thoughts, Van Christian also asked a similar question. Who gave her that formula? She hesitated and struggled for a long time. Yes, Count Hamilton. Hearing this, Duke Van Christian had to grit his teeth to suppress his sudden rage. Then he lowered his voice and changed the interrogation target, Eagle. So AI provided the Velma herbal powder to that person? He awkwardly bowed and answered, yes, Count Hamilton. Duke Van Christian coldly uttered a few words. I understand. Elodie was affected by the cold and dangerous atmosphere spreading from him. He threatened with a bit of fright. His attitude completely changed. Duke Van Christian solemnly gave orders, bring him here. I will verify it myself in the dark prison cell. Count Hamilton was mercilessly pushed down, blood flowing in streams. He looked wronged. Duke, there must be some misunderstanding. How could I know that mixing tea and those herbs would produce anesthetic? Paralysis. I mean, why would I do that from the start? If you give me a chance, I will find the real culprit, Eagle interrupted wearily. Enough, Hamilton. The herbal components, the purchase time and delivery route have all been confirmed. Do you think the Duke would really give orders? Without evidence? Count Hamilton could no longer argue. He was pushed into a corner. Only meaningless words could be heard. He just wants to destroy me to death. He is the mortal enemy of my family. Die and go to hell, devil. Duke Van Christian's eyes became icy cold. So what did the doctor say? He replied that it was a method never recorded before. It seems he tried very hard to create it because the consequences changed significantly, with the slightest ratio change. But when mixed in a certain ratio, it becomes exactly as the lady said, a nerve-paralyzing substance. He growled like a hammer striking iron. So you were waiting for me to depend on that tea. Even if I become paralyzed after using it, AI will suspect the tea I've been drinking normally all along. Hamilton, you are 24 years old this year, right? I have observed you for a long time. It feels like just yesterday when I first met you. When dealing with illegal slave trading, your parents fled even then. You still called me the enemy of your family. You were 14 then. So I understand you lost your parents and wealth. You only have them left, and my family intended to keep you close until you erase all crimes, the family's faults, and fulfill your duties, and I guess this is how you repay. Count Hamilton trembled, calling as if begging for forgiveness. Duke Van Christian slowly stood up. I have borne responsibility until now. Now it is time for you to take responsibility for your actions, he called 7 times. The Duke's face showed sadness. Even though he still cared, Duke Van Christian had to reluctantly punish Count Hamilton, make sure his end is painless. Eagle understood his feelings. Are you all right? Duke Van Christian tried to dispel his sadness. Make sure his end is not painful. The eagle understood the Lord's feelings. Are you all right, Duke Van Christian? He tried to dispel the sadness. What's wrong? It's just a minor incident. More importantly, I'm curious how the girl discovered he praised Elodie. You mean the young lady? She is a descendant of the Russell family. Maybe she has some holy power or something. He walked seriously while answering. If that were true, the Russell family wouldn't be cursed. But there's no other explanation, so it's better to ask the girl directly. Later, inside the elegant living room, Ella sat on a chair, feeling scared. Why is that? Duke Van Christian smiled gently. You are quite a capable young lady. How do you know this old man is using poison? The girl worriedly thought to herself. She had acted. She knew too much already. What to do? Should I lie to get through this? No, I'm not sure. He'll see through a clumsy lie. If I don't want to end up like Hamilton, I have to persuade properly. I met Elodie shyly, replied. I have eaten a lot of such things. I was very hungry with no other choice. I got very sick because of it. That's how I learned to be careful with what I eat before I met Sarah. I learned that lesson, even though I couldn't take care of myself. A field mouse came up to me. That little creature taught me how to find edible food, how to avoid humans, and that a lowly mouse can also enjoy life with me. That mouse was a lifesaver. But in the end, it ate poisoned food, trapped by humans, and died. It only lived 2 years and didn't even know it would die like that. That's why I used the excuse of playing doctor to check your food, because that's the only thing I can do. Maybe it's too late to do this, but I don't want to see anyone die like that again, even you, Duke. He was surprised by the story the girl told Duke. Van Christian sighed wearily. What are we doing? Going that far with a child now. Don't cry anymore. You don't have to recall painful memories anymore. Doubting the Russell family's ability. Why do I feel so uneasy? Ella wiped her tears, trying to stop crying. I didn't mean to cry so much, it's just I can't stop thinking about the past. He reassured her, don't worry too much about this. Hamilton was just a small fly. Just because I was careless doesn't mean someone like him could really harm me. Elodie pondered. If that was true, it would be good, but why is the Duke, so calm as if he's used to these threats. It seems he can't think of herbs. But if this isn't the first time he's faced such danger, could there be another cause leading to his death someday? Duke Van Christian curiously turned around. He was stunned. Couldn't believe what he heard. You mean? What? Making the girl's eyes widen. Duke Van Christian smiled amusedly. Called me. Sir. Elodie shyly called after him. He flicked her head. You should call me Sir, kid, causing the girl pain. Duke Van Christian tapped his cane on the ground. All right, let's go. Elodie was stunned. Where? He smiled brightly. I must repay your kindness, and I also have a small request. In the bustling kitchen, the soup pot bubbled on the stove. The flame below burned fiercely as if wanting to swallow the whole pot. The girl was quietly amazed. This is the kitchen. Corner vegetables were neatly sliced, each piece falling rhythmically under the sharp knife. The kitchen, he said, to repay kindness. But this feels like repaying with a curse. Is this the kitchen that? Duke Van Christian carried the girl while replying, surprised because it was bigger and wider than the kitchen at Bluegood House. Why? Now you will play the role of doctor here for a day. Elodie strongly objected. The chef will throw you out if he sees you. Because you are a mouse, he calmly nodded. We'll have to see. Everyone seemed to ignore the girl, making Ella's mood heavier. No, they must think I'm really dirty. They have avoided me since I stepped in. I have to leave before being kicked out. Duke Van Christian asked just in time. Should I take you outside? The girl shyly nodded. He lowered his voice. Like that? Do you intend to live your whole life in fear, running away? Elodie's face turned pale. He brought me here knowing I'm afraid of the kitchen. Why? How can I? I need to say, let me go. But I couldn't open my mouth. The girl felt like sitting in a burning fire. Say something. Ella, if you don't leave now, you will. Suddenly, a voice rang out, startling. Ella, I knew it, young lady. Afraid of the head chef's face, right? Turns out the head chef was trying to explain to everyone I'm vegetarian, but her determined face looked scary enough. Or wear a mask, or stand in the corner for a while. Hello, young lady. We have always been waiting until the day she could meet that person in person. The little girl gradually felt completely relieved, which was a reaction she did not expect. Duke Van Christian continued. Everyone seemed very happy to meet the child. Do you still want to go? Elodie was a bit scared but more comfortable than before. He was right. They kept their distance because they didn't want to scare her. That's right. I can't run away forever. That's why I followed him here, leaving my parents behind. If I can't overcome this, I will never be able to break the Russell family curse. She held the little girl's hand and smiled warmly. Miss, do you want cookies? I thought the chef's hands were scary, but they were very warm. Finally, Elodie agreed to speak up. Though a bit awkwardly, Tata came here to check the meal. Seeing that, everyone was overwhelmed by the little girl's cuteness. So adorable. She was also very lively. Really? Then try making a new menu, how about it? He handed Ella down. The little girl still looked at everyone cautiously. Do they really think I'm a baby? But if they underestimate me, they will regret it. Maybe I've been a mouse all my life. But I'm an outstanding mouse, Ella. Sitting and writing the menu with seriousness and professionalism, her hand wrote soft strokes. Not as smooth as I thought. Is this word correct? Thinking back, this is the first time I've used tools like this. Even writing, right? Duke Van Christian held the menu that Elodie just finished writing. He and everyone looked disappointed. Forget about spelling mistakes. I should teach her how to hold a pen first. Didn't you say if you want to live long, you have to eat healthily? What? the little girl replied, but these are all things I have eaten before. Duke Van Christian teased Ella's cheek. It seems the one who really needs a new menu is this kid. The little girl glanced irritably. Is it that bad? She forced a smile and explained. The menu you made seems suitable for field mice, but in the world, there are much more delicious dishes, if you don't mind. I will bring walnut cookies and almond milk for you, okay? Ella looked confused. Almond milk? She continued. It's milk made from almonds. The little girl looked like she was pondering life. Isn't that like eating almonds, walnuts, and various nuts all at once? Why? Why cook it? It's completely different. I've never eaten such delicious food before. How can it be crispy on the outside and melt inside? She was happy to see Ella enjoying the food. I'm glad it suits your taste, miss. He held the teacup while wondering, how can it be so delicious? The little girl quickly spoke up. Sir, do you want to eat some? The Duke Van Christian glanced down with a look containing quiet but unreadable observation. He wiped his mouth after tasting the walnut cookie-like flavor on top, so Elodie was frustrated inside. His reaction was different from hers. Wow, although he's a knight, he's also a noble. Maybe he's eaten dishes like this millions of times. If I know what dish he likes, I might find out the cause of his health condition. He also likes that kind of tea. The little girl eagerly probed. Sir, do you like anything? Duke Van Christian gently put down the teacup. I don't. Elodie was confused and thought to herself. How can you not like anything? The little girl timidly spoke up. Sir, I think more important than what you like is the meaning behind it. Like, I don't care about clothes, but I like the outfits. Sarah picks for my sister. Sarah is like that. Serafina always cares about the little girl. Whenever she eats something delicious, she thinks of Elodie, wishing Elodie could eat with her. Elodie happily confided, before, I couldn't eat human food, but at that time, I really wanted to eat it. He shared those small, happy moments. That's how something can have special meaning. Don't you have something like that? Elodie asked, like that? Duke Van Christian only replied, I don't. Yet the little girl still didn't stop. But if you think about it, suddenly he reached out and pinched Elodie's cheek. You're still young, but like a talking machine. That's enough playing around. If you want to eat anything for dinner, eat a lot. Then you can go anywhere except the Serenity area. Even you will be in danger there. Hearing Duke Van Christian's warning made the little girl curious, thinking to herself, Serenity, just the name sounds peaceful. What's so dangerous? Ella immediately asked. What's there? Everyone in the room stiffened for a moment upon hearing that Duke Van Christian was silent too. After a while, he only said 2 words, grandson, which made Elodie even more curious. Grandson. Whose grandson? It can't be Edmund, so one of the other 2. Duke Van Christian has 3 grandsons. The eldest grandson is Edmund Van Christian, the heir of the Van Christian family. The second grandson is Zenobia Van Christian, notorious as a wild troublemaker, and the third grandson was said to have died young due to an incurable congenital disease. Karen Van Christian. The girl raised her teacup and thought to herself that the third grandson was young and sick, so he wasn't a threat to her. But if he said that much, then it must be the second grandson in the garden of the Van Christian mansion. Ella exclaimed happily. It's so beautiful. Standing nearby agreed. I thought the young lady would like it. Recently, someone has been staying in the house with the young lady Bluegood. Going out to enjoy the fresh air isn't wonderful? Ella responded loudly. That's right. The girl recalled her recent time with Serafina. This is the first time I've been able to spend time with Sister Sarah like this. So a week has passed, and the food is also very delicious. But I can't just relax like this forever. I need to quickly find clues about the Russell family. Suddenly, something slithered past Elodie's feet. The girl startled and screamed, then realized it was a snake. The squirrel saw Ella's reaction and hurriedly asked the young lady, What's wrong? The girl panicked and pointed at where the snake had just appeared. There's a snake! The squirrel hugged Ella to comfort her. Snakes occasionally appear because this garden is very large. Why are you so startled? The girl stood, frightened and uneasy, thinking to herself that she didn't expect there to be snakes in the mansion. It can't be a divine snake, right? So even here isn't completely safe. Now that I think about it, he was almost poisoned too. Sister Elodie wanted to dispel the fear in her heart and asked the squirrel, Snake Beastman, Sister Squirrel, there must be snake beastmen living in this territory, right? She calmly explained. Of course, Van Christian has all kinds of beastmen, including the BA family of the Snake King's clan. The girl quickly interrupted. So there's also a divine snake clan? The squirrel was a bit surprised and asked, How do you know about that family? Isn't it you who told me to live outside all this time? Elodie scratched her head and thought, because in the future, they will surpass the Russell family and become the Papal family. I have to know about them. Although that's all I know, she could only smile wryly and say, I think I've heard about it somewhere before. Where? The squirrel had no intention of understanding everything and replied, I see. But the divine snake family doesn't live in the Van Christian territory. Ella was startled and said, You just said there are all kinds of beastmen here. She patiently explained the reason. The girl listened. That's right, but the snakes in the divine snake family rarely leave their territory, and they are a very closed family. They only go out when requested. Elodie became even more restless, thinking, so the assassin family or something like that, I can't meet them unless I go to their place. But I can't just go into the snake's lair. If only I could get more information. The girl suddenly exclaimed when she saw something. Her train of thought was interrupted by blooming blue flowers, making Ella, exclaim, "So beautiful." Seeing her sit down to pick the flowers, the squirrel hurriedly stopped her. "Young lady, you'll get your clothes dirty." Then Elodie held up a flower in front of her, excitedly showing it off. "Look at this, Sister Squirrel." The squirrel looked at it curiously and asked, "What is this?" The girl happily replied, "Lobelia flower. It's a flower used for medicine." The squirrel didn't expect the flower's use and asked more, "Oh my, what does it do?" She still stared at the flowers and answered, "Lobelia is used to detoxify. A mouse I once knew taught me." The squirrel's face suddenly turned pale, while the girl continued naturally, "Especially when you're bitten by a snake." Elodie had no idea another person appeared behind her. "Since when?" Karen looked at the two with blood-red eyes. The squirrel was startled and said, "Young lady." The girl then turned around to look behind. Karen looked at Elodie, who was still holding the flowers, wondering who that girl was. "Looks familiar." The squirrel nervously said loudly, "Young lady, please come here. What are you doing out here? Please return to the side house immediately, young Master Karen." Elodie was hugged by the squirrel, but kept glancing back at Karen. "He's the third grandson, so he's still alive? The dangerous grandson you mentioned is the third one? But the third grandson is very weak and sick. So why is everyone afraid of him?" Elodie couldn't help but think deeply. He must be terrifying. If he died young, then the illness must be severe. Everyone avoids him, so it must be an infectious disease, right? But this reaction seems even worse than fear of contagion. Looking like prey facing a hunter, Karen turned away and stopped looking at them. When he turned and walked in the opposite direction, the squirrel finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Yes," Elodie looked up at her. Sister Squirrel waited a moment, not understanding, only replied with a "Yes, young lady." The girl ran after Karen, thinking back. Clearly he also said it was dangerous, but he was someone who had experienced many threats. When being a mouse, I know those who try to harm small creatures have scary eyes. More than that, at least the third young master didn't seem like he would harm me. Elodie picked up a bouquet of flowers and called out, "Third young master, take these herbs with you. There are snakes around here. If you get bitten, crush them and apply to the wound." Karen didn't think he would be spoken to, so he hesitated a bit. The girl saw his attitude and thought he found it hard to take them. Elodie decided to put the bouquet back on the ground. "All right, I'll leave it here. Snake bites are very dangerous. So you have to take it with you, okay?" The squirrel behind called out brightly, "Young lady, come back quickly." Karen watched as Elodie was carried away by the squirrel. That child was a descendant of Russell. Finally, I went outside because the mansion was quite noisy. I didn't expect to meet a girl like this. Karen looked at the flowers placed back on the ground and used his mouth to untie the handkerchief, the precious gem of the 6 lands, the miracle of the gods. Karen approached the bouquet. The fresh blue flowers immediately withered. Karen directly crushed the flowers. After all, they were meaningless. "Enough, don't have any foolish hopes." Inside the mansion, Elodie walked wearily. She recalled the squirrel earlier had bathed her with a bunch of soap. "The person who needs to bathe first and change clothes too," Ella complained. "Is meeting the 3 young masters really that scary?" In the end, nothing happened. "I'm so tired. Let's go snack with Sister Sarah." Suddenly, a werewolf appeared behind the girl. Elodie's body reacted instinctively and she screamed, while Half was startled by the loud noise and also screamed along with her. "Be careful," she looked at him. "He looks like a wolf beastman." "But why did he react like that? You scared me." Meanwhile, Half turned away and covered the young lady's face with his hand. "I didn't mean to appear in front of people." Elodie was very curious. "Who are you that you cover your face like that?" He hesitated a bit and introduced himself. "I'm Half, commander of the Silver Knights. I cover my face because I heard people are afraid." The girl repeated. "Afraid of Half?" Elodie asked. "Are people not afraid of me?" She looked at his figure and thought, "Of course, wolves are scary, but standing like that instead of scary, he looks kind of silly." Elodie scratched her face. "Honestly, now I'm really not afraid of anything." Half was very happy hearing that. "Really? So can I stay close to you?" The girl had no objection and agreed immediately. "Sure, do whatever you like." He was very excited. "I will make this day a celebration for my whole life." Elodie suddenly remembered to ask, "By the way, what are you doing here?" Half wagged his tail and replied immediately, "I'm guiding guests, but that person needs some time to talk with young Lady Bluegood." The girl also looked in that direction. "Who is that with Seraphina?" Elodie suddenly narrowed her eyes at that person. The person was talking to Seraphina, the young lady. Just a moment. The girl immediately recognized him as Wellston, the prince's servant. That name was definitely from her past life. The girl recalled when Wellston held a shoe in his hand. "Your Highness, I will have the shoe left by the young lady checked. It seems there is magic on the shoe, that only one person can wear it. Let me handle it. I will definitely find that young lady for you." "That's right. Your Highness is looking for her. The young lady. Your Highness swears to love her forever. He will dedicate his whole life to her, and will only love her alone. Prince, Your Highness, please wake up. There's no time to waste like this. Do you know what they call a woman who meets a good man outside the palace and rises in status? They call her Cinderella. That's Cinderella. Thanks to me, she has become a symbol. I am the one who taught her, from being nothing but a commoner to this position. But she not only didn't help me, but also lost favor and status. Now wake up quickly, and at least hold on to the prince and cry pitifully." Elodie became more certain the culprit had led Sister Sarah to the prince. She panicked and hurriedly decided before that bastard did something stupid, she needed to chase him away from Sister Sarah immediately. Yes, Elodie urgently called out loudly, "Half." He was startled and surprised to hear his name. The girl raised her hand with a serious face and requested, "Now quickly carry me and take me there help." Confused for a moment, the eyes brightened happily because being hugged, Elodie excitedly replied, "Yes, please hug me tightly." The girl was stunned because she was suddenly picked up, secretly resisting. "Let me go," Elodie anxiously urged him. "Help, hurry up." Seraphina frowned firmly. "I have nothing to say to you, but Wellston was not easy to let go. Still thick-skinned. If you listen to me, you will change your mind. I have not yet debuted in the upper class, right? Then that would be such a waste. Just tell me where you live. I will send an invitation to the prince's birthday party to you," Seraphina declared silently. "I am not a daughter of any prestigious family. Even if you send an invitation, my family will not be happy." She silently confirmed that was true. Even her family treated her no differently than a servant. That guy heard and was confused for a moment, then asked repeatedly, "What? Are you a stepchild or adopted?" "No problem at all." With that face, even if not a queen, she could be a concubine, Seraphina. After hearing those contemptuous words, then turned her back and walked away. "You are really rude now, please leave." Wellston was stunned, trying to hold on. Wait, what? You only want to be the official wife, right? She was startled, turned around and shouted again, "Let me go." The guy still wore a sly smile, refusing to let go. "Then what about me? Even if I am the wife of a baron, that satisfies the 7-tone scream echoing throughout the room." Baby Elodie landed safely. Looking cool, she looked at the hammer in her hand and thought silently, "So this is the holy physics hammer. Dad said not to swing it at others, but that Baron Wellston is not a person, so it's okay." A voice of someone sounded full of doubt from Elodie. The girl turned her head happily to greet Seraphina's sister. "Are you okay?" Seraphina worriedly came over to ask Han Ella. "I'm fine. I just jumped too high." The girl lying in her lap gently replied, "I'm okay." More importantly, that guy isn't saying anything strange. Seraphina glanced toward Wellston to reassure Ella. "Go, don't worry, nothing happened." The girl also raised suspicion, but who is he to come to the mansion? Help caught the man while answering. "I heard that young Master Wellston came as a representative to sign a business contract. I allowed him to speak, thinking he was the heir, but who knew?" "I'm really sorry, Miss Blue Good. You don't mind this, right?" "Now I'm fine already." While helping to lift the man's body who was sleeping soundly, Elodie suddenly discovered something. Both Seraphina and the girl looked toward behind him. Elodie happily thought that was someone's foot stepping forward, asking Han what's the commotion. The Duke Van Christian and the Eagle strode over help suddenly called the Duke's name. He continued his unfinished question. Someone quickly explained. Ella smiled brightly, full of thoughts. "You appeared at this moment. If this goes smoothly, I can use this to completely kick that Wellston out of here." After a period of peaceful sleep, the man suddenly woke up, startled. While still drooling, Wellston looked around, then panicked at the ropes, tightly binding his hands and feet. "What is this? What is going on?" A solemn, calm voice sounded. "You're awake, huh?" He saw Duke Van Christian sitting upright on the chair. Then annoyed, accused the Duke. "What does this mean? Tying up a guest to check a contract like this? Really rude." He immediately reacted to the rudeness. "You used a good word. From what I heard, you not only flirted with my honored guest, but also dared to lay hands on the young lady. Isn't that rude?" Wellston tried to explain that he did nothing wrong. Flirting was really silly. "I have never met her before. I just tried to send her an invitation. I thought it was a good opportunity. And if she comes to His Highness's birthday party." The Duke gently patted Ella's head, then returned to the main topic. "I understand now. Is that so?" But the kid said otherwise. The man didn't understand and asked again. "What do you mean?" Duke Van Christian said sternly, exposing Wellston's deeds. "You were not only rude to my guest, but I also heard you stole valuable items from Van Christian." The girl beside him added, "The petty thief." The man was startled. "Christian," the girl chimed in. "A petty thief. He's jumpy." But he still refused to admit it and argued stubbornly, "Thief? Do you have proof?" He repeated the keyword again, like evidence. "This magical cotton is the proof. I saw them crawl out of your pocket." Wellston saw the unfavorable situation but tried to stay calm. Inside, he was very confused. Clearly, he had put them in the magic pouch. How could the magical cotton look like living creatures at first glance? But in fact, it contained a large amount of magical energy, so even those without magic, it can cast spells by absorbing it. It is a very rare item, worth a fortune. Throughout the war, I always wondered how that lazy prince could learn basic magic. I never imagined the secret behind it was like this, and he acted as if he had innate talent. Duke Van Christian held the magic flower in his hand, preparing to sentence this protected creature, something that only grows in a few territories. Yet it was in your pouch. It does not grow in your territory, so from the start, you could not have brought it from there. Don't tell me you're going to use the excuse of stealing it. Don't you know that guy was trembling like a leaf? Without any reason, he fell silent. The Lord waved his hand and ordered, "Nothing more to discuss, just follow the regulations." Wellston trembled on the floor, stammering, "What exactly are the regulations?" An eagle sighed helplessly and explained. Article 3, Clause 23 of Van Christian's regulations. Anyone who comes here must be aware that prohibited items, if found secretly taken outside, will be banned from Van Christian for 5 years, and upon a second offense, will be permanently expelled. But Wellston, hearing this, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. What? I thought I was done for because of the severity of this, but no, it's not that bad. He celebrated too soon. The eagle continued reading the unfinished law. And anyone who intends to secretly take protected items outside will have their wrist broken and be imprisoned. He stared blankly at the ceiling, muttering, "Broken wrist?" Fear surged inside him. Wellston panicked, begging, "Please, Duke, give me another chance. I was only following the orders of His Highness the Prince. His Highness will surely reconsider my case. Just contact him one-on-one." A gentle voice echoed. "No need." A voice came from the glowing blue gem. Casa smiled kindly, peering on the screen through the gem. "I've heard everything already." Wellston stammered in surprise. "Your Highness the Prince." Elodie narrowed her eyes in discomfort at the scene. He was as happy as if he had struck gold and immediately pleaded, "Your Highness, please clarify for me." He still wore a smile on his lips. Gently, he said to Wellston, "What do you think you're doing? Stealing from the Van Christian house itself?" But Wellston, hearing this while acting the tragic role, had to look up. "What? Your Highness, what do you mean?" The prince had said he wanted to use magic, but Casa's face changed 360 degrees to cold and replied, "You said to me? You think I want to use stolen items?" He panicked and tried to defend himself. "But you liked everything I brought before." He raised his hand, eyes showing disdain, and replied coldly, "Wait, you mean everything you brought me before was stolen?" Memories of loyal master-servant moments flashed by. Wellston happily announced, "Your Highness, I have something I want to give you. Didn't you say you wanted silver jewelry with stones?" Casa cherished the ring in his hand, giving a little praise. "I'm very pleased. You're the only one who's done something for me." But the good memories were in the past. His cold voice pulled him back to reality. "If I knew they were stolen, I wouldn't accept them." Wellston was stunned and panicked, calling out to the prince. Casa thought for a moment and then said, "But it's not related to me, Duke Van Christian. It seems your subordinate has committed a serious crime. I apologize. This happened because I failed to supervise them properly. Please handle this according to Van Christian's regulations." He knelt on the floor, not yet able to accept his master's harshness. Stammering, "Please, Your Highness." He looked as if he was unwilling to accept it. "I'm also pained, but this cannot be avoided, even for your benefit, Duke. Make sure this doesn't happen again." Duke Van Christian sighed helplessly and replied, "Of course." Elodie witnessed everything and silently thought, "He can say that with such a shameless face. He clearly knows those treasures were stolen, but he just turns a blind eye. At least with this, I finally got rid of Wellston. I won't have to be involved with that prince anymore." Casa suddenly looked at the girl with an unfriendly smile. Elodie immediately switched to alert mode, her eyes full of resentment. Returning the greeting, he quickly left. "See you next time." The afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, carrying a warm and peaceful color. The little girl walked down the corridor with a troubled heart, unable to forget what the prince said at the end. "But at least I kept Sister Sarah safe." Avoiding the prince, and the Duke said he had contacted the prince, I thought it was over. Luckily, Sarah said she would go back to her room first. Thanks to that, I could pressure that Wellston guy without any problems, but I didn't expect the Marquis or Wellston to come right when he overheard it. Though annoying, he's still my father, right? He shouted loudly when he saw family appear. "Father," Elodie thought silently, lifting her spirits. Maybe later I should secretly go see how he's being punished, but now maybe I should rest with Sister Sarah. The little girl happily skipped to the door and announced she was home. "You didn't wait long, right, Sister Sarah? Sister Sarah? Sister Sarah? What's wrong? Don't tell me it's because of that young Master Wellston, right? That guy has been locked up until the Marquis Wellston arrived." Seraphina pondered and turned around to explain. "It's not like that," Elodie anxiously asked. "Then what's going on?" She didn't keep the little girl waiting long and began questioning Elodie. "Why weren't you allowed to be there when you contacted His Highness the Prince?" The little girl hesitated awkwardly. "Sister Sarah, about that," Seraphina continued to express her concerns. Elodie looked very embarrassed at that moment, so she went back to her room first. "What did you do to block the way? What's going on? Or is there something I'm not supposed to know?" The little girl, Ella, nervously denied. "Not blocking the way, no ma'am." She wondered what she should do, thinking she had hurt Sister Sarah's feelings. Just thinking about it scared her. If Sister Sarah had been there, she could have met the prince, and if history repeated itself, maybe they would fall in love at first sight again. I really hope Sister Sarah doesn't remember the pain from her past life. It's not that I want to hide or hurt her. I just don't want her to walk down the path of suffering again like before. She has a chance to rise in the future. Ella sincerely spoke up. "I'm sorry, Sister Sarah. I just thought you wouldn't be comfortable because Wellston said some terrible things." Seraphina was touched and touched the girl's shoulder. "I've always been grateful to Elodie for always caring about me so much. But why do you care about me like that? I don't think I deserve that affection." The girl stood up to object. "Of course you do. Why do you think so? Sister Sarah deserves all the love in this world. You gave it to me. You're the only kind person to me. I was once a lowly field mouse, and you were the only one who cared about me. But even when you protected me, you never took care of yourself. Now I'm stronger. I want to protect you back. So of course I love you. That's obvious." Seraphina couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Now I understand. If you feel that way, then I don't need to worry anymore." Elodie blushed and stared blankly. "The reason you've survived all these years at the Blue Good House isn't because you're naive or too kind, but because you had nothing. worthy of fighting for. No matter what you did, it wouldn't change, so you just lived as they wanted. But now it's different. Now you have something you truly want to protect, and that's why you want to handle everything on your own. You don't want Elodie to be in danger because of you too. Elodie was touched and hugged her back. Serafina, the girl silently concluded. She felt relieved now. Turns out I'm the one still stuck in the past. The girl looked straight into Serafina's eyes and promised, I'm sorry, Sister Sarah. I was too reckless protecting you. I went too far. I won't make that mistake again. She smiled gently and replied, It's okay. I think now I understand what you're trying to do. But next time, let's get through it together, okay? Yes, sister. Elodie smiled and agreed. Yes, ma'am, the little girl told herself. From now on, I will focus on Sister Sarah. The Sarah in front of me is the present one I need to protect. The next day, the Eagle reported while walking that the agreement with Duke Wellston had been completed because the theft was proven they wouldn't be able to cause any more trouble. Young Master Wellston was officially disinherited. Unfortunately, his wrist wasn't broken. Duke Wellston apologized on behalf of his son, though it seemed he was trying to push the traffickers, but obviously the Duke flatly refused to send someone like young Master Wellston as a representative, which was the biggest reason the Duke didn't trust their intentions to replace his son. Over the years, the Duke Wellston sought profit and left in anger, revoked his son's title, and sent him to the monastery. At that time, Elodie couldn't help but wonder. She thought everything was finally settled, so why were those kids still surrounding her? The Eagle spoke up to explain that it seemed they were attracted by the Russell family bloodline. The girl wondered what these guys were supposed to do. He calmly analyzed that the Russell bloodline had the blessing of Pandarus, the body of Animalia. Being near the child helped maintain their physical state, so they clung close even to those not born as beastmen. The instinct protected by the gods still surged. After hearing this, the girl exclaimed how wonderful it was that they remained loyal to Jackson. Although not beastmen, he remarked that perhaps that was even better. I like to think of myself as rational. The girl also admitted that was certainly true, the Eagle continued. But the moment I came to Van Christian, that rationality felt completely useless. Ella was stunned. What? Useless? He spoke in a near whisper, sharing his feeling. I guess instinct is not something that can be discarded. I just want to hug tightly and bite that thing. The girl was shocked after hearing that bite comment. I think you misunderstood the useless part. Yes, he continued. That is a common side effect of beastmen when they see children. Miss Ella was startled. What did you just say? Oh my, I'm going to be eaten? Duke Van Christian calmly replied. Actually, if you keep acting spoiled like this, how will you adapt to Van Christian? The Eagle awkwardly defended. Miss, I didn't mean that. Duke Van Christian clicked his tongue, requesting to keep distance and not talk to him. What's wrong with him? Is he backing out? The man coldly ordered, just stand over there and observe. He assessed, as if he was bragging, then suddenly changed the subject. Even so, is there any new development? The Eagle quickly reported. The prince said he would personally come to apologize. The girl was horrified thinking the prince was coming. Van Christian's name was unbearable. She flustered and suggested, should I use that holy hammer again? He smiled and asked, are you planning to use that hammer on the prince? And Elodie silently resolved that if he laid a hand on Sister Selah, she would act. Duke Van Christian sighed in agreement. If so, then have a tool for self-defense. Keep it. I won't stop you. Hearing this, the girl was delighted. Really? Ella reflected that somehow she thought her father gave it for that reason. He gently reminded her, if you intend to swing it at him, warn me first. I guess it's better if I handle that matter. The girl slightly turned away to avoid it. Are you okay? She thought to herself she wanted to hit him 100 times. She was lucky with Wellston to keep everything on track. But she couldn't just hit the prince with the hammer without a plan. It seemed there was only one choice to find allies. He and Edmund were out of the question. They had too high a status, and if anything went wrong, it could become a political scandal. We can't let the prince's wrongful actions turn into controversy, but we still need someone to apply pressure and push him back completely. The Eagle suggested if I wore glasses, it would be less scary. Duke Van Christian bluntly declared it was still as scary as usual. Then Elodie turned back and called out, Sir, I have a request. He gently encouraged, Speak, I'm listening. The girl smiled and expressed her wish to visit the knights. Half spoke up in the training area. Everyone pay attention. He was carrying little Elodie in one arm. The scene before them made the other knights curious. Weren't knights forbidden from being near the lady? That's what I said. Only the captain is allowed to be close, but he's also the one who makes the children cry the most. Yes, he sternly corrected his subordinates not to gossip. The lady said she had something to say. So everyone focus. Everyone enthusiastically said yes. Ella raised her voice. Everyone. When I plan to form a team and assign a secret mission, the prince said he would come soon to apologize, Van Christian said. But the real purpose was probably to find the one who embarrassed him, of course. If we ask for your help before that guy does something stupid, we might be able to chase him away immediately. But if things go wrong, it could lead to conflict between the kingdom and the empire, and that would be an even bigger problem. What if the prince accidentally meets Sister Sarah? That would be a disaster, so before that happens, we must scare the prince and make him run away. Therefore, we need a group of people who can apply just enough pressure, and the perfect ones for this are the knights, who excitedly volunteered. A secret mission I want to do. The girl had identified exactly what she needed the knights. A loud voice ordered order. Elodie quickly explained that the number of members was limited to only 5. The knights paused, looking at each other and scrutinizing the number 5. The girl continued, since it was a secret mission, she didn't need to act in a way that would draw the attention of the knights who had already taken their positions. Fighting each other, I knew this day would finally come. Today, I will seriously duel with you. Ella awkwardly tried to stop them. We don't need fighting strength for this mission. Acting skills are more important than strength. A male voice interrupted. That's my strength. Miss, it's been a while, hasn't it? I am Lebert, commander of the Golden Knights, he said, frowning. I don't remember the miss calling you here. Don't disrupt the meeting and leave immediately, Lebert retorted. That's because the miss hasn't known about my existence yet. After all, isn't the miss the one who decides whether to give a chance or not? Am I wrong? Miss, you will also allow the princesses in the Golden Knights team to participate, right? The girl was curious. The prince immediately explained. It's a nickname I gave to my lover. Ella silently doubted, he said, princesses in plural. A female voice suddenly rang out. Captain here! Are you causing trouble with the Silver Knights again? He took the opportunity to introduce them. They are my princesses. The girl was startled and amazed. You don't just have one lover? This flirtatious guy? Leopard denied that. Miss, you misunderstood. I can't stop it. It's the instinct of a lion. The Wolf Knights teased. If you're almost like a beast, why don't you walk on all fours? He was annoyed, cursing those bastards. Yes, miss, this is disobedience. Please punish them harshly. The Wolf Knights kept teasing. All right, back off. Loy hesitated to decide. Maybe it's better to only choose wolves for this mission, the girl thought to herself. A flirtatious prince is enough. The Wolf Knights took advantage and advanced. Did you hear that? A beast dares to argue with a human? Leopard's indignant shout echoed throughout the mansion. A few days later, the miss was attentively searching for books. A figure approached and called his name. Edmund, it's been a while, hasn't it? Prince Casa Martino Silveria of the Silveria Kingdom. Edmund turned around wearily. So he really came. Van Christian, he calmly asked. What brings you here? I thought the matter last time was settled. Casa smiled and replied, I thought it better to apologize directly, so I came here. And also to meet an old childhood friend. He calmly placed the book down. I don't see it that way. Edmund silently assessed him. He was still as troublesome as ever, someone I didn't know much about when we were young. His interests were too extreme. Politely, he excused himself. If there's nothing else to say, I will take my leave. His legs suddenly stopped when he asked, Who is the girl that my subordinate insulted? Edmund calmly said, As far as I know, the matter was already settled long ago. He put on a righteous air. Since it was my subordinate's fault, shouldn't I take responsibility as the master? He calmly reassured, It has been handled according to Van Christian's law, so there's no need to worry further. Casa frowned, realizing he was protecting her. Now that I think about it, I heard a strange rumor. They say there's a very beautiful girl who attracts all eyes from the first time she appears at Van Christian. Don't tell me you fell for her at first sight? He thought so and smiled with interest. Even if not, it's no problem. The way he tried to hide her only made me more curious. He insisted no. I really think it's best to apologize directly. No matter what, such a person is the standard. Edmund rubbed his helpless forehead. Your Highness, no one living in Van Christian has a reason to be treated like your plaything, no matter how noble your status as the heir to the throne. Casa remarked, You're still as rude as ever. Let me ask you something. If you answer, I will leave as you wish. He accepted the offer. Go ahead, he prompted. I heard my subordinate tried to steal something called magic flower. It was hidden very carefully. I never imagined it would grow in Van Christian. Edmund continued organizing the bookshelf. Are you asking why it's not brought to market for sale? He immediately scoffed. No, casually selling such a rare thing would reduce its value. What I want to ask is why no one uses it. He calmly answered, I have no reason to use it. He was suspicious. No reason? Emun continued organizing the bookshelf. Why aren't they brought to market for sale? He immediately laughed. No, casually selling such rare things would reduce their value. What I want to ask is why you don't use it. He calmly replied, I have no reason to use it. He doubted. No reason? A swordsmanship beyond human ability was said to be passed down directly from the Dukes of Van Christian. And if you learn basic magic, wouldn't using magical cotton increase your own value? Wherever you go, you will be admired and praised. Emun didn't care if AI knew. I don't think I need to crave a power that was never mine from the start. Casa wondered why the magical cotton. The assets of Van Christian are not yours, he answered, because to AI, that is beyond there. It is a highly desired ability. If I possessed something like that without effort or respect, it would be very disrespectful. I was very lucky to be born a high-ranking noble and grew up enjoying many privileges. I don't want to crave what isn't mine and steal someone else's opportunity. He sarcastically said, You are still so rigid, but you never know, right? If you had learned basic magic, maybe you could have saved the late Duke. I can't tolerate it anymore, Your Highness. Enough, you CASA. Raise your hands and surrender to me. Sorry, I went too far. However, Edmund slowly sheathed his sword. It seems I got angry with Your Highness again. He did not deny it. That's right, we rarely meet eye to eye. Now I must go. He suggested, I will send someone to see you off. He refused. No need, just greet the Duke. Edmund silently pondered. No way he would back down so easily. What is he plotting? But he wouldn't dare act recklessly even here at Van Christian's place, right? The CA stood leaning against the mansion wall. The maid showed obvious surprise when she saw him. "Your Highness, what brings you here without attendants?" He whispered with a smile. "I secretly came here." She blushed, curious to meet AI. She recounted, "I heard my servant was rude to some girl. I wanted to apologize directly but haven't met her yet." The maid shyly replied, "I can't carelessly talk about her whereabouts." He put a finger to his lips and promised, "I truly intend to apologize and leave immediately, but could you tell me where she is?" Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support us and not miss the latest episodes. Wishing you relaxing and joyful moments. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.